Hello. In this screencast I will show you how to use dynamic menus in Uniface forms. Menus in Uniface consist of menu bars and drop-down menus. Each drop-down has a certain number of menu items. If these items are of type option, then at runtime each item will result into exactly one visible menu. Sometimes the display of menu items should be made dependent on certain data situations, so that the menu can't be defined in advance, but needs to be created at runtime. In this case, the number of visible menu items and their namings should be decided at runtime of the application. In such a situation, dynamic menu items can be defined instead of static ones. I have here an example of such an application. Here is a form where you have countries, and when I retrieve countries, I have different ones here, and as a menu, for example, you can see state, customers, navigation. If I go to state, and now I'm here at Austria, you will see that for each state belonging to Austria you have one menu item. If I go to Australia, you see that there are other states. And if you go to the next one, this country doesn't have a state, so therefore you see the menu item no states. Also for customers, you can see customers in country, there are no customers. But if you go back to Australia, you will see there's one customer, Bruce. And if I go back to Austria, you can see there are other customers. So it depends on the country. Two things are important to define dynamic menus. First, you need to specify a menu item of type dynamic menu as a placeholder into your drop-down menu. This placeholder will be replaced at runtime and will show the generated menu items which are defined by a proc code. Second is to write proc code to define the name and the type of the menu which should be shown at runtime. This is done using the function $inline menu. This function inserts one or more generated menus at the location of the placeholder. Within one dropdown, static items with the type option can be mixed with dynamic items. As you can see here, a dynamic menu item is defined as a Uniface list. An item is identified by an item ID, which has two mandatory attributes, type and text. A normal item will have type option, but on this location you can also include or cascade another menu, which can also be static or dynamic. In these cases, the included or cascaded menu should be mentioned as attribute, either as nested menu equal to another dynamic menu item list, or as referenced menu equal to a predefined static menu. There can also be a separator in order to group menu items. Other attributes for the menu item list can be hint text, checked and disabled, depending on the desired appearance of the item. So let's have a look how this looks like in practice. I have here this demo form, and this form has the menu Xdyn menu 1. Let's go to this menu. Here I have this menu consisting of 3 drop-downs. And first we have a look at the drop-down states. And here we can see there is an item state place, which is of type dynamic menu. So this is already such a placeholder. When I have a look to the triggers, then we have here in the pre-display, it displays the menu has to be created and assigned to the function $inline menu. For creation of the menu, we are using here an operation which is called getMenu_det. So let's have a look at this operation getMenu_det, which is here in our form. And there we can see that there is a service called getStates. In this service, the Uniface list for the menu items is created. And then it is returned to our menu. Let's have a look at this service. Here we are now in the service with operation getStates. So we get here the country ID as an input parameter, and we deliver back the Uniface list with the menu items which we create here. First of all, we have to check if there is a state for this country. We make a retrieve, and if no state is found, then we create the menu no states, what you have seen just before for the country Bahrain. So we have here a menu with type option, but with a text no states. As an ID, we are defining here none. When we have states, then there is a loop for all these states, and for each state we create one option type item with a text as the state name, and we define the ID of the state as the menu ID, what you can see here. So now we have finished our menu item list, which is now passed back to the menu. Now let's have a look what happens there with the menu item list in the menu itself. And we go back to the menu, to our state place in the trigger. And there in the option trigger, we have received now the menu item ID, which is equal to the state ID. And from there, we are activating some form, and we are passing the state ID, so that when the user presses this menu, then the maintenance form for this state opens up. So the same is also with the customer menu. So when we go back to the customer menu, also there we have a dynamic menu, cast place as a placeholder. And if you go here to the pre-display trigger, you see the same story. Also there is some service called to create this dynamic menu item list. Okay, this concludes the screencast for dynamic menus. You can also find some more information in the Uniface help for that.